All right, looking at 6.4 echinoderms and fish. It's going to be a little bit shorter than our last video, which is good. We need shorter in our life. Let's look at this, dude. Echinoderms. Echinoderm means spiny skin. So that's what you can expect to see. Echinoderms, these are things like sea stars and sea urchins and sand dollars and sea cucumbers. A couple things about them. They are spiny skin. They have an internal living skeleton. We're going to talk about that. Water vascular system with tube feet. And most adults have what we call 5-part radial symmetry, which is basically they have this whole star thing going on. You can see that there on the upper ones, on the upper ones. Actually, the sea urchin there in the bottom left is going to have that as well. Not so sure on the sea cucumber. We'll just leave it alone. All right, so the endoskeleton, a living endoskeleton, what does that mean? It's like living tissue. The exoskeleton of arthropods is not living. It is secreted, it is made, whereas the endoskeleton is living tissue made out of cells. We have an endoskeleton, and so this is going to make echinoderms very different than anything else we've talked about. It's a skeleton that supports the organism as it lives and does its thing. Water vascular system. So this is kind of a step back in evolutionary terms, in that the water vascular system is kind of like a catch-all system for this organism. It's not going to have a dedicated like circulatory systems and respiratory systems. It's going to have organs that do like respiratory and that kind of thing, like gills. But the fact that it's able to kind of push water through its body is going to allow it to do various systems. And it actually creates this kind of system of pressure which allows these little tube feet, which you can see in this picture, to work. These tube feet are like little tiny suction cups, and it uses them to move, it uses them to eat and pry open its food. It uses the tube feet for quite a lot, even as sensory, like reaches out and feels of things. Pretty cool. We don't think of sea stars as like reaching out, but they do. All right, so let's talk about feeding. They are predators. So in a lot of their ecosystems, they're actually like the apex predator because they live in like a tidal system and they're eating everything that is up there. They don't like go and eat fish or anything, but a lot of the mussels and like other mollusks that live there, they're going to feed upon those. And so they are voracious predators. They don't just kind of sit there. They're mean. And they're not mean. It's not real. Okay, reproduction. So external fertilization. And the big thing for reproduction for these guys is their larva, which you see there, has bilateral symmetry. And so this is one of those instances in which, the larva, a lot of times the developmental stages of an organism will kind of mimic the evolutionary progress of an organism. So whereas it seems like the sea star is kind of taking a couple steps back. In reality, it's just the adult form is a little more primitive, so the larval form shows more advancement, I guess, in that way than the adult form as far as its bilateral symmetry and that sort of thing. So just a neat thing there for that. Chordates, moving on past echinoderms. Chordates is a big group of things, everything from like fish to monkeys and all things in between. And so we're going to talk about chordates. There are some characteristics that chordates have. At some stage in their life, all chordates are going to have a dorsal nerve cord. Think of this as like a spinal cord. Dorsal is the back, which is a big deal, right? It's on the back as opposed to on the belly. A notochord, there you see that in the picture. Notochord is like a precursor of a spine, and it's like a flexible rod that is going to allow for some structure for that organism. Pharyngeal gills, which you see there, those gills can be gills in some organisms like fish, but in other organisms like, for instance, us, those gills turn into something else. They turn into our inner ear bones and a few other things. And so those pharyngeal gills are at some point in their life are located there. For us, it's just in our embryonic stage. And they have a tail. All chordates have a tail. Again, some organisms have lost that tail, but at some point in their life, they're going to have these things developmentally. There are two chordates that exist that do not have backbones, and this is one of them. This is Amphioxus, or a lancelet is the common name for that, and there's another one called a tunicate or a sea squirt is what it's called. It looks like a little purple heart. I don't even know how to describe it. It's not much going on with the with the old tunicate. You don't need to know those. I just think it's fascinating. These guys, yeah, look at them, pretty primitive. All right, so fish are the first group of chordates that we're going to talk about. These are aquatic vertebrates. So they have a backbone, aquatic vertebrates with paired fins and gills. Watching the time again. All right. So fish here, a couple of things on fish evolution. The first fish were jawless. We still have some jawless fish. There's like lampreys and hagfish. You see those all the way on the left. They're jawless. Then after that, you had fish that had jaws. Or that had very primitive jaws, or were still jawless but had like armor plating on them, so like almost like an exoskeleton, but not exoskeleton. Don't use that term. And then as fish developed, they had a more bony skeleton, or it was a cartilaginous skeleton, excuse me. And that's what we still have those fish around today too. It's like sharks and rays and skates and that sort of thing. But then the most modern fish, which is going to be most fish, are going to be what you call bony fish, or not going to give the scientific name there. And so these are things like, I mean, pretty much any fish that you can think of is going to be a bony fish. The cartilaginous fish are going to be things like sharks. They're still around, but they represent more primitive evolutionary. And then you still have some jawless fish, but again, most of them are extinct as well. Talking about the essential functions of fish: respiration, circulation. Big thing for respiration, obviously gills. And for circulation, we're going to get into some new terms here. Circulation is what we call a single loop circulatory system. You see that on this picture, right? There's just one loop. It's just going around once. This is going to be different than us and some other organisms that have a double loop circulatory system. And so in a single loop circulatory system, you have some mixing of the blood and that sort of thing. So it's just a term to know. For response, fish are going to have a little bit more complex brain, still pretty dumb, but they have a little bit more thinking, or not problem solving so much, but more just kind of processing with the cerebrum that you see there. More advancement in that. They also have something you see on the right picture. This fish has something called a lateral line, which is a sensory organ that is located along the body that allows the fish to kind of to smell and hear kind of at the same time. They're able to sense their environments in whatever environment they're in. Some fish have a very distinct lateral line. Some fish is a little less prevalent, but fish are going to have this lateral line system as a part of their sensory structure, allows them to sense their environment. Fish have paired appendages. Didn't write that down on the slide. That's okay. Paired appendages, new thing. And so with paired appendages, these are appendages that are kind of linked to the structure of the body to give it support, and this is going to even manifest itself more in organisms like amphibians and reptiles that are going to have a little bit more ability to walk on land, but you have to overcome gravity at that point. But fish are able to swim very strong. Some fish are very quick in the water because of these paired appendages. And reproduction. So there's two new terms that you need to know here for reproduction. One is oviparous. And so oviparous means egg laying. So some fish are egg laying. They lay eggs, and those eggs hatch and become little fish and swim into the mouth of another fish, which I think what we're looking at here in this picture. And some fish are viviparous, which means live birth. And so rather than giving birth to an egg and that egg hatching, they give birth to fish. And so you see this with later organisms, including humans. And so that is it for fish. Relatively short compared to the other things we talked about, but lots of new terms. Hope this was helpful.